All right. Welcome. We want to welcome everybody back to the third episode of the Horsemen Pro Football Talk podcast. And I am Brad.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Jeff.
All right. So we're like I said, third episode. And, we got a lighting issue in the background. We got a coordination issue with the foreground. We're working out the kinks. But the important thing is that we like to think we know what we're talking about with football. So I know both these guys do, but I like to think I do too. So today we're going to break down the NFC East. Is that right, guys?
That is correct.
Started with the worst first. Is that fair enough to say? Somewhere a Cowboys fan head just exploded, which we'd hoped that we would have an exploding head Cowboys fan on the podcast today, but we weren't able to work that out. So just for anybody listening, we decided we were going to do the NFC East today, and next episode we're going to do the AFC East. Is that right?
Yep.
That is correct. Yep.
So we would love to have a knowledgeable AFC East fan join us in the next episode to talk about the AFC East. You can't just like a team or just come on, just because you want to trash talk. We need somebody who knows what they're talking about. Somebody that can actually maybe school us on their favorite team, preferably. So
yeah, that'd be ideal.
Yeah, if you're interested, let us know. We'd love to have you. So
yeah, just post on our Facebook page, and
yeah.
We'll see it. We'll get you on.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay. Do we have a preference which team we want them to break down? Do we want a Pats fan?
I don't know.
Jeff, could you handle having a Pats fan?
I mean,
this would be the year to argue with them.
Yeah, a lot of fake Pats fans all over the place. I'm sure we can find one.
Yeah, they're all a lot of them. I'd like to have a Buffalo fan. I'd like to learn a little bit more about the Bills, and because I paid a little bit of attention. But I think that'd be cool. I think it'd be different. Everybody's Pats fan. You got a lot of Jets fans down here. We got a lot of Dolphins fans. So I think it'd be cool. Maybe. So if you know somebody that's a knowledgeable Buffalo fan, let them know and let us know.
I have a few on my friends list. So if you're listening, reach out. I got you. We'll get you on.
Yeah. Heck yeah. All right. So especially, if you're a Buffalo fan, this might be your year to get on and really talk a lot of trash and be able to back it up for the first time in 20 years. So, all right, we are going to, speaking of going with the worst first, we're going to talk about the Redskins first.
Yep. Got them at the bottom.
Somewhere a Redskins fan's head just exploded too.
I don't think I know any Redskin fans.
Yeah, I don't know many. So, all right. So we're going to talk about the Redskins, and Ron Rivera has moved up the coast and gone from Carolina to Washington. I don't know. I guess the question I want to ask from a coaching standpoint is, do you guys think, I think the question is, did he underachieve in Carolina? Or is he just another mediocre coach that keeps getting a head coaching job?
I think he's a mediocre coach, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I wish him I hope he does better in Washington, but how many years was he in Carolina? He was there for a long time. I think he only had 3 winning seasons. He went to the Super Bowl once that year. They went 15-1, but other than that, didn't really do much.
Yeah, his career record is 79 and 67. He's just above 500. That's not super impressive for sure.
Yeah, especially because one of those seasons they went 15-1, so there's plus 14 there.
Yeah, that's a good point. He was in Carolina for 8 years. So, is he the Jim Caldwell and North Turner of the modern era? Or did he have his hands tied and, blah, 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 and is he going to break out in Washington? I guess remains to be seen. But is Dan Snyder still the owner of the Redskins?
Yes, he is.
Well, good luck, Ron.
Yeah.
Well, I know they have Jack Del Rio as a defensive coach, so if him and Rivera could put something together defensively, they'll be fine.
Yeah,
But
good point.
offensively, I don't know what they're going to do offensively with Dwayne Haskins as a quarterback, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I've got them. They'll be lucky, in my opinion. They'll be lucky to win 6 games. Looking at the schedule, that's my opinion.
Yeah, I highly doubt they get to 6 games. They just don't have the talent.
No, I only got them winning 3 this year.
Yeah, is there anything that stands out with the Redskins for either of you?
Well, they got Chase Young on the defensive side. He was the number 2 overall pick. He'll be a stud.
Yeah, they did a pretty good job revamping the defense. They lost a couple corners, but they gained a couple. And like Zach said, bringing Chase Young in, they had got Montez Sweat last year. So those two on the D line together should be good. They still got Durantane in the middle of the D line and Ryan Kerrigan in the back. Still have Landon Collins for another 4 years, I think, 4 or 5 years. With Jack Del Rio is a pretty good defensive coach. He wasn't really the greatest head coach. And I think that's a lot of what Ron Rivera is too. Great defensive coach, just not the best head coach. But if those two can pull together that defense, then maybe they do what the Patriots did last year and have the defense completely carry the team all year. But that's not very likely.
No, and it didn't get them very far, Patriots.
Yeah, it doesn't work like that in the playoffs nowadays.
Yeah. So, do you think they've got what it takes to stop the Eagles and the Cowboys in the division?
Oh,
no, not at all.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I think I have them getting a win with the Giants, but I think I have both the Eagles and the Cowboys beating them twice this year.
Yeah, and even the Giants. That's that home field coin flip thing we talked about. Just if I have a team, 2 teams that are evenly matched, rather than flip a coin, I'll give it to the home team just for the push. And that's kind of the way I looked at Washington and New York. That they probably just win at home and leave it at that.
They also lost Trent Williams and Eric Flowers, which are 2 kind of premier offensive linemen, and they didn't really add anybody. I think they drafted a guy. But their offensive line got worse. They have a running back, and Darius Geis, who has a lot of talent, but he can't stay healthy, which is obviously going to be a problem down the line. They have Adrian Peterson as backup to him. Somebody on their team that they drafted that I think is going to be really interesting to see what happens with Thaddeus Moss, Randy Moss's nephew, I think, right?
Okay.
That's his son.
Oh, that's his kid. Okay. Yeah, he's a tight end. He's obviously a big dude like his dad. He was drafted kind of later, so I don't know what his role is going to be on that team, but they don't have Jordan Reed there anymore. So I expect him to take on a pretty big role. I think he's going to be Haskins' safety blanket as the year goes on.
Okay, so I've got him lucky to win 5. Zach, what did you have them at?
I have them with 3 and 13.
Yeah, Jeff, you had them at 1 and 15, right?
That's right.
Oh, not a lot of hope coming from this podcast.
I think in the next few years, though, if Rivera's a real deal, he'll turn them around. They'll get better. But as far as this year and next year, I don't see it happening.
Yeah, and I'm not completely down on Rivera like I was Jim Caldwell and even Norv Turner. The thing about Norv Turner is he was still a mediocre coach, but when you look at the talent that guy squandered, if he had a mediocre team, he would have been at the bottom of the barrel every time. So I think Rivera has, hasn't been stellar, but he hasn't been bad, right? I mean, they, I don't know, they win some games at home and right around 500, I guess. So, like I said, hopefully he can push and make something happen. Maybe it's a better deal for him. So we'll wish him luck.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right. Anything else on the Redskins before we move on to the next one?
Nope, I think that's it.
No? All right.
We're good.
All right. second from the bottom. Sorry, Giants fans, but I don't see it turning around this year.
Yeah, I think that's unanimous between the three of us.
Yeah, I think so too. So they have an unproven coach, right? He's brand new, and the New England coaches have he's a special teams coach in New England. So I don't know where some of these guys qualify with head coach status. Not saying they can't do it, but it just seems like a big leap to me. It always has. And the New England coaches haven't had a very strong showing in the NFL as of yet. We're still kind of waiting for that shoe to drop. It looks like it might be there with Vrabel and possibly Flores, but and this and his is this his second year in New York?
Who, Joe
No, he
Judge?
just got
Yeah.
hired.
Yeah, it's his first year.
First year, okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So, the interesting thing is when I was looking at the schedule, the Giants could jump out to a 2-0 start very easily. So week 1 they have the Steelers. We don't know if Big Ben's going to be back, and if back to form, if he can play, kind of that whole thing. And I don't remember who week 2 is.
Chicago.
Is it Chicago? Yeah. So they've got the quarterback controversy going in there, and which is a quarterback controversy is exactly what an unorganized franchise needs, just more chaos. So I don't see the Bears helping themselves in that order. The Giants could jump out to 2-0, but then I for their sake, I hope it does, because from there, they'll be lucky to win another 2 or 3 games from there. So if they don't win one or both of those, they'll be lucky to win 2 or 3 games.
Yeah, I have them winning 6, and they only go 2-4. One of those wins in the divisions against Washington. I'm pretty sure I haven't beaten Dallas one of the games, but yeah, I have them 6 and 10
in New York.
Yeah, in New York.
That's a tough place to play, and we all know that interdivision games, all bets go out the window anyway. The Bengals can beat the Steelers, so on any given Sunday. So what do you think, Jeff?
I like what the Giants are looking to do. They've definitely made the roster. The roster changes they've made are looking good for the future, but they still have a lot of holes in the secondary that they gotta fill at some point. And they just, one of their guys that they drafted last year in the first round just got arrested, probably not coming back. So they're gonna have to replace him. Their secondary is going to be a problem for them. Their offensive line still isn't getting a whole lot better, so they're going to struggle. But they have some pretty good pieces. A lot of people know that I'm high on Daniel Jones. I thought he had a lot of potential coming in, and he looked good last year. Had 3-4 touchdown games, I'm pretty sure, which was a rookie record. And Saquon's just a beast. And now they kind of have a plethora of weapons to throw to. They have Golden Tate still, Sterling Shepard, and Darius Slayton came on strong last year as a rookie. And we kind of saw, like, with Andrew Luck and T.Y. Hilton, came in the same draft. And by the end of that first year, it was obvious that T.Y. was going to be that guy down the line. And so I think Daniel Jones and Darius Slayton coming in together in the future is going to work out really well for them. But there are just too many holes on the team to really feel confident about them.
I'd agree with that. I like Daniel Jones too. I think over the next few years he's going to get a lot better. Saquon Barkley is just absolute monster. But they also have Evan Ingram, who was showing out last year too, and I think he's only going to get better. As far as Joe Judge, I know he's going to be a lot more flexible with the offense, so that should help. I know they're going to be physical, fast, aggressive. They're going to run the ball downhill with Saquon, as long as they can keep him healthy. If he gets hurt, I don't see the Giants getting anything done.
Yeah, that would be a big problem. Huge hole to fill. They have Deion Lewis. They signed Deion Lewis, and they still have Wayne Gallman, but those dudes are nothing like Saquon.
Do you what do you think about Jason Garrett as their offensive coordinator? You think that is notable? You think it's a matter of time before he's replaced by somebody else?
I like Garrett as a coordinator. He did really well in Dallas before they made him a head coach. So I think he'll do. I think he'll do very well.
Yeah, I think.
As long as they don't make him the head coach eventually.
Yeah, well, and I'm not so sure that all that is his fault either. Um, we all know that Jerry Jones likes to get in the middle of stuff he shouldn't get in the middle of. So um, it's hard to really judge a guy like Jason Garrett and in Dallas all those years to know what he was doing, what kind of permission he had, to make decisions and what was being interfered with, which we all know it can be huge. So with that, I'd like to give him a pass. I'm not a big fan of him as a coach either, but I have to acknowledge that we don't really know because of that scenario. So, but I agree with you from the offensive coordinator standpoint. I think, it'll be interesting to see if he's got something to prove. He's still in the East and building a contender in New York and dominating the NFC East would be kind of a big screw you. Back down to Jerry Jones. So maybe he's got some fire in him.
Yeah, it's possible. He's known as the clapper, just staying over there, calm and clapping. But who knows? Maybe they can go to Dallas and he can fire the team up, and they can put up a huge win in Dallas and maybe get the ball rolling from there.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be something if they beat Dallas twice this year?
Yeah, that would be. Talking about watching Cowboys fans' heads explode. You'd have to put them on suicide watch.
Yeah, seriously.
Like you do every year at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Something notable, I think, kind of for the whole division. The whole division kind of has an easy schedule, which preseason projections are up in the air. No one knows what's really going to happen. But right now, the Giants are projected with the 7th easiest schedule. So if they can win some close games, and maybe they can get closer to an 8-8 kind of record. But I'd have them at 5-11, obviously missing the playoffs.
Yeah, and that's what I have them at 5-11. And that was contingent upon possibly winning one or two of the first games. So I think 8-8 is a stretch. They're the kind of team that even if they have in my opinion, even if they have a good run and they end up at 8-8 and somehow because they're in this division squeeze in the playoffs, they've just wasted a playoff spot that somebody else could have used. I know it's early to tell that, but I just don't see them having anything enough by the end of the year to contend. I've seen crazier things, but it's just my opinion.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to be nice to Cowboys fans because next we're going to go to the Eagles. Of course, we just pissed off a bunch of Philadelphia fans.
Well, in the Horsemen fan poll, they did take 45%.
The Eagles did, or the Cowboys?
The Eagles did. 45% of the Horsemen fan poll voters voted that the Eagles will win the NFC East this year. So they're close, percent. But I'm right there with them. I got the Eagles winning the division this year.
Okay, I thought you had them at second place. Jeff, you had them at second place, right?
Yes, sir.
I do too. I want to start that off with I really wasn't sure. So I'm really kind of in the middle because I think the Eagles could flip this really quick and they could get their stuff back together that they've had the right stuff. They've kind of floundered a little bit, but I think Peterson's a good coach, and I think if they come out and not necessarily firing on all cylinders in the beginning, but if they can hold it together and put it together, they could win this division very easily. Really, the notes that when I was looking them over and researching that, though, I actually wrote down that they could be division champs or they could be a disaster, and they could really go either way, depending on the circumstances. So I don't want to be down on the Eagles at all. I just don't. Dallas looks really strong from where I'm sitting, to be honest.
Yeah, I think a lot of what you're saying is how I'm thinking. They're just so up in the air because a lot of their success depends on Carson Wentz, and is he going to be able to stay healthy and stay in? Which is probably why they went ahead and drafted Jalen Hurts. And if Wentz does stay healthy, then maybe they find a way. Doug Peterson's creative enough that maybe he can find a way to get him into a Taysom Hill type role for the Eagles, which could be huge. Miles Sanders had an okay first year. He's talking about coming out and setting the league on fire next year, so hopefully he can do that. They still have Alshon Jeffrey there. They have Deshaun Jackson, who can obviously run past anybody. Jalen Rager, who I don't know much about, but he's kind of the same kind of mold that Deshaun Jackson is. Really fast kind of guy, can spread the field. And Zach Ertz still easily top five, probably top three tight end in the league, and one of the best offensive lines in the league. They brought in Marquise Goodwin, which I'm surprised the 49ers let him go. He should be another burner for him. And, there wasn't a whole lot of roster or coaching turnover for the Eagles. So from a big change kind of standpoint, they're not one of those teams that is going to have to get reacclimated with each other. For the most part, they all know each other already. They're just a couple guys that got to come in and get going. But they brought in a guy in Darius Slay on the defensive side, and that's going to be huge for them because the front seven for the Eagles has been solid for the last 5 years. They just had a couple question marks over their secondary. Bringing Darius Slay in, he's a top 5 corner in my opinion, and so that'll be huge for the rest of the defense. They can stop worrying about that side of the field basically. I got them projected at 8-8 and missing the playoffs. But even in my notes, I said that my projection may be too low. It's really, like I said, all dependent on what's Carson Wentz going to do. Is he going to be able to stay healthy? If Carson Wentz stays healthy, I think he's got as much talent as any other quarterback in the league. He's able to be mobile and throw on the run. So he's an electric player to watch, and I hope he stays healthy. If he stays healthy, I think they have more of a 11-5 kind of record, but judged on what he's been thus far and what they are without him, I have them at 8-8 right now.
Yeah, Zach, you had them. Zach, you had them at 11-5 and sweeping the division, didn't you?
Yeah. Yep. 11-5, 6-0 in the division. I think Carson Wentz is going to stay healthy. They're returning 6 Pro Bowlers, including 3 offensive linemen. So I think as long as he doesn't make a stupid mistake, try to run it up the field and get killed by 3 people, I think he'll stay healthy. They added weapons. They're not all the other teams in the division have new coaches. They're all trying to find themselves, their identity and stuff. But the Eagles already have it set in stone. So that's why I think they're gonna take the division this year, run at 6-0, just completely dominate it.
Wow. And I think Jeff and I can both agree with you to the point that as I was talking about the Giants just a minute ago, and I said if they squeeze out, if they're able to eke out an 8-8 season, they're going to take a playoff spot that someone else could use. I think if the Eagles are 8-8, it's a completely different story. I think the Eagles are 8-8. If they make it to that point, they would have the ability to take a playoff spot and make a good run. I don't know that they're a Super Bowl contender, but the bottom line is, even before we get to the Cowboys, this division very easily could put 2 teams in the playoffs. And I think we all agree on that. Zach, I know you do, but even with you and the Cowboys, you agree that the Cowboys could, and the Eagles, even if the Eagles win the division, the Cowboys could end up in the playoffs as well.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys can. Do I have them in the playoffs? No, they're the Cowboys.
Well, sometimes they make it; they just leave early.
Yeah, true. Very true.
All right. Well, then let's move on to Dem Boys. I'm sorry, somebody had to say it. You can't have a conversation about the Cowboys without somebody saying that, right? Man, again, it's the Cowboys. Every year, it's really hard to distinguish between reality and the hype. You don't know if what they're bringing is real or somebody's just sold you a bill of goods about how amazing they're going to be. Um, this is the same thing. Mike McCarthy, I don't know. Did he underachieve in Green Bay?
Oh, I think so. Yeah,
Yeah,
Rodgers and a solid Packers team. I mean, look what they did last year. His first year gone.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Uh, he did carry a 61% uh, win percentage in Green Bay, but and they went to the playoffs. I think 9 or 10 years out of the 13 or so years that he was there. So um, and but and he's got a 64% win percentage in the playoffs, but only one Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, I think he went to 4 title games too.
Yeah, it's hard. It's that's that whole Marty Schottenheimer thing. And I don't mean to knock Marty Schottenheimer. I mean the guy won a crazy amount of games all the time. He just couldn't. He just in the end he just couldn't get it done. And how do you let a guy like that go? You just so I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. But we all know that Jerry Jones isn't going to take one Super Bowl in 13. Well, I guess he's only taken 3 in the last 30. But um, that kind of record isn't going to get it in Dallas for Jerry Jones. He expects the Lombardi Trophy. So, but it's early. I mean, I don't want to have him fired yet. But they're stacked, right? I mean, they got a lot of talent. Can McCarthy be their John Gruden? Can he be the push that pushes them over the top and gets them another Super Bowl?
No.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think there's a lot of hype behind McCarthy because of the stuff he was doing with the coaches that are on the roster with him. The stuff they were doing while McCarthy was away, and they were working together and putting together new plays and a new offense. And so I guess it'll really depend on what they were doing and how that's going to shake out. But I think they're stacked, and I think McCarthy did a pretty good job. His record got kind of soiled because Rodgers was out for a lot of games with some collarbone issues a couple of years. But I think McCarthy's a good coach. I don't know if he's, I think he's a pretty average coach. I think the win percentage, 61%, is pretty average, and I think he's a pretty average coach, but that team is stacked. So it'll be interesting to see what they do this year, especially with the whole Andy Dalton Dak situation going on right now.
Yeah, so you said something pretty interesting the other day, Jeff. You've made a bold prediction that Andy Dalton may end up starting there.
Yeah,
were you clowning around, or are you being serious?
No, the way Dak's going, it just he wants 45 mil in that last year, and that's not realistic for a guy that hasn't done anything. Like he's had some really good games. He's had some really good plays. He's looked like an elite quarterback at times, but I mean, if you're gonna have for 45 million a year, you got to at least get to the conference game once, And he wants all this money. He didn't want to sign the franchise tag for 31 mil this year. He doesn't want to sign a contract for 5 years, $175 million. And if he really wants that money, then I think he's just gonna pull Le'Veon Bell and sit out. And Andy Dalton will take that 3 mil this year and be the starter and ball out for the Cowboys.
That's what I think they should do. I think Dak's way overhyped. He's a good quarterback, but he's not an elite quarterback like he's trying to get paid. He hasn't done anything to prove that. His stats are good, but you have to win games in order to be great. Like that Tom Brady versus Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning can put stats all day, but when it comes down to it, Tom Brady won 6 Super Bowls. So you have to win games in this league if you want to make that kind of money, and he's just not doing it. So I think they should roll with Andy Dalton. I think they should let Dak go.
Yeah, a lot of Cowboys fans, again, their heads are exploding, but I like Andy Dalton.
Yeah, me too.
I don't understand why he went to Dallas. I mean, I didn't at first. We're probably going to talk about that here in a second, but I mean, I thought Bill Belichick should have been all over that guy. I mean, he's a disciplined veteran quarterback that is getting old enough to know his limitations, and he's quiet and just does his job. And it seems like a prototypical New England player. I'm shocked he didn't pull him in. But to go to Dallas, do you think Dalton knows? Do you think there's inside information that they were like, we don't think we're going to get this done with Dak, and we need you to come in and you may start? Do you think he knew that walking in?
Very well could have been, yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the things I've been thinking, especially after this last contract situation. I think they told him coming in that there's a pretty good chance he's going to be the starter.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a weird situation to be that guy that starts for so many years and could go anywhere else and start, and then he walks in behind Dak Prescott. There has to be some ulterior motive behind it. Unless the stock was down, nobody wanted him, right? Which, we're not privileged to that information, but on the surface, it seemed a little odd. So I guess we'll see. And if anybody is going to tell a player to go sit his ass down, it'll be Jerry Jones. There ain't no doubt about that. Aside from Bill Belichick, it'd be Jerry Jones.
Yeah, no doubt.
So, all right. What was your prediction for Dallas, Zach?
8-8, 3-3 in the division, and they are not making the playoffs.
Okay. All right. You had 2 wins against Washington?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Jeff, you've got them at 10-6, right?
Yep, 10-6 and 4th seed in the NFC playoffs.
All right. Is that with Dak or is that with Andy Dalton?
Either or, really. To me, one's not a whole lot better. I think Dak has more arm, throw power, but I just like Andy Dalton. I've always liked Andy Dalton. So I think either of them can win. That they're so stacked. They got Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb. They got Zeke. They got Tony Pollard to back up Zeke. Their offensive line got a little more shaky. Connor Williams, guy they drafted last year, I believe, he had a 61.4 overall PFF grade, which is terrible. And they brought in a new center because Travis Frederick retired after 7 years. He was one of the better centers in the league. This new guy, Joe Looney. Joe Looney has only started 30 games in his career for 3 different teams in 8 years. So he's obviously just a throwing kind of guy for teams when they just need a guy to put in there. So I think they're stacked. I think they can still win. They got better on the defensive side too, which is kind of crazy. And they signed Greg DeLeg Zerline, who was 72.7% on his field goals last year and 100% on extra points.
Nice.
And the Cowboys have the second easiest projected schedule in the league this year.
That's a key component right there. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Second easiest schedule in the league.
Yeah. They're still going to go 8-8.
That's that's one of those things that if it's an embarrassment, right? It's a good thing to think you got the second easiest schedule. Kind of like Prescott, he could blame Jason Garrett up to this point. Now he can't blame Jason Garrett anymore. If they continue to lose, then people are going to point the finger more at Prescott than they have because he had a scapegoat. Now he doesn't. Same thing with the second easiest schedule. If it looks really good right now, they're like, hey, we got the second easiest schedule. We can win 10 or 11 games. And if they struggle to win 8, then we got problems. There's no running away from it at that point. I had them at winning around 10 or 11 games, but it's all contingent upon what the Eagles do. I really, like I said, I'm split. I can't decide which way the Eagles organization is going to go. That will obviously come into play. So as of right now, I've got Dallas winning the division. I didn't choose playoff spots because that gets weird, man. Any one little thing changes and the playoff rotation changes and who's where, and you get 2 teams in one division in, and then that one team could have a better record than somebody else, but they have to sit back on another. So I didn't go that far, but anyway, it'll be interesting to see. I think it'll be. I didn't note the schedule. Are there any big time the Cowboys and the Eagles play at the end of the year, at the end of the schedule? Is there a chance that they could have a game at the towards the end of the year and really hype this up? Anybody know?
Yeah, they play in Week 16 in Dallas.
Ah, Jerry Jones finagled that one, didn't he?
Yeah, because then they have their last game against the Giants, who, like you said, should
Yeah.
probably be a pretty weak team. So
That'll be one to watch, I think, if all plays out like it should. So
yeah, 'cause this is the division now. It seems like almost every year this division comes down to the very last game of the year.
yeah. Well, every year everybody's sitting at or below 500, and every year somebody from this division has an 8-8 record and gets into the playoffs somehow.
Yeah,
Which sometimes it's because all the teams are strong. It's been that way in years past. It hasn't been that way, recently. But I remember there was a time where every one of these teams was pretty strong. So anyway, all right. Any last second things you guys want to throw in here about the NFC East?
Eagles are going to win it.
Yeah, I don't have anything for the football side of it, but there's something that I wanted to say real quick. So today we're recording this on Monday, May 25th. Today's Memorial Day, and you can't really see my shirt, but this is a shirt for a memorial ride that we were doing for my cousin in Indiana, and he was a corporal in the Army, and he was killed in Balad, Iraq in 2009. And also, for those that don't know, Brad was also in the Navy when he was younger. So I just want to say thank you to all the veterans out there. Today is a little, a lot of people, for a lot of people, it's just a third day on their weekend, and getting to drink beer and have barbecues and stuff. And then for some people, it's a more, an actual Memorial Day, a day that we remember those that we lost. So I just want to say thank you to all the men and women out there that are fighting for us to be able to do what we're doing here. You know what I mean? We get to keep our freedoms because there are people out there that will literally take a bullet for us if they need to. And then I think that's really important.
I second that. Well said, Jeff.
Very well said. So, with that said, we'll sign off with a happy Memorial Day. Check out the next podcast where we're going to cover the AFC East. We had a couple of people, a couple of fans lined up for today that they fell through. Unfortunately, we decided to go ahead with this. But again, we're looking for some AFC East fans that know that know their football and they're ready to talk big facts. Sorry, I couldn't help but throw that in there. But as Jeff said, and Zach agrees, we're thankful for the veterans who gave the ultimate sacrifice over the years. Veterans Day is for the living, and Memorial Day is for the dead, and we certainly have respect for all those who've fallen in the armed forces, especially Corporal Zach Nordmeyer. So thanks for checking us out, and look for the next one, the AFC East. And didn't we have another poll?
Yeah, the next one that you can vote on our Facebook page at Horsemen Sports will be the NFC West.
We already did the AFC East, right?
Yeah, by the time this gets put out, the AFC East will be closed. Okay. So
we're gonna do the NFC West. And didn't we do a poll about Prescott? He was worth $35 million.
It was a post that we posted on our Facebook page just asking about it, and I think the consensus was no, he is not.
All right, good enough. All right. Well, thanks, guys, and again, thanks for listening. Please like, share, subscribe. Just a couple guys trying to talk a little bit of football, and we appreciate the love and support if you'd share the hell out of this, and we'll see you next week.